Hello, I'm Neil Quigley and welcome to the latest episode of my Blogcast. Hope you're good. I have been lucky enough now for most of the last 7 years to go and get some January or February sun. I must admit, I'm not a big fan of the cold and of the winter months. I definitely like it to be warm, hot and sunny, which is why I try and save some of my holidays for the winter to go abroad and get some sun. This year, I went back to the Caribbean, but went to a new island that I'd not been to before. The holiday destination was down to one of my girlfriend's friends who we see every year at the Taste of London. We spoke to her last year saying we weren't sure what we were going to do in winter 2026 and where we were going to go. She then said that she was going to Grenada with her daughter and a group of her daughter's friends to celebrate her daughter's 30th birthday. Her dad was born there, her stepmum still lives there, and she's got lots of friends and cousins over there. She has been going there for 30 years. She invited us to join her out in Grenada at the same time. Now, I'll be honest, I left all the organisation for this one to my girlfriend Linda. She planned it all. She booked the flights for us and sorted out the accommodation and basically did everything. I obviously knew what dates we were going away, but that was about it, to be perfectly honest. And we booked it quite a long time ago, so I knew it was approaching. Then somehow I found myself rushing around on the days before to get packed and get everything sorted in time. Left it all to the last minute somehow, but I did manage to pack and get myself over to Linda's place the night before we were due to fly. We were flying from Heathrow Airport, which is about 40 minutes from her house. It was an early-ish flight, so we had a taxi booked for 5:45 a.m. I have often had to get up early for work and I've always made it, although sometimes it can be difficult. I always find it a lot easier to get up and get moving at whatever time it is in the morning if I'm off to the airport to go on holiday. So we were both up, no problem. Got the taxi, which was dead on time. It worked like a dream. There was no traffic that time in the morning on the M25 and the M4. We got our bags checked in straight away, met up with my girlfriend's friend, went through the fast track security, found a restaurant to eat in that had no waiting time. So we were straight in and onto a table. And before we knew it, I was having an omelette and a cup of tea along with a glass of Prosecco. That is a great way to start a Saturday morning and the first morning of your holiday. The flight we had was an 11-hour flight to Grenada. It wasn't a direct flight as such, so we flew to Barbados to drop a few people off and pick a few people up. We were sat on the tarmac for about an hour and then we flew the remaining 48 minutes to Grenada, which seemed like a very odd, a very short flight in such a large plane. I've done quite a few long haul flights, so I'm very used to it and I actually find the time goes quite quickly. I do actually like the meals on an aeroplane, mainly because I just find they really break up the journey and make the time go a bit quicker. With my celiac disease, you can order a gluten-free meal in advance on, I think, pretty much all airlines, and I must say, certainly on the way out, the gluten-free offering was very good. They fed us 3 times and each meal was perfectly acceptable and fully gluten-free and safe. So I was happy about that. I'm still not totally convinced about plain wine, and I know it's great for the environment, but I still really struggle to find a nice tasting wine that comes from a can. I'm sure there are some, I just haven't found any yet. On the way there, entertainment wise, I watched the behind the scenes documentary of the making of the final episode of Gavin and Stacey. I hadn't seen that before. That was really good. I also found myself watching rather classically a few episodes of The Simpsons. Always good to pass the time. And I had a book to read and a few podcasts to listen to. The time just flew by. Grenada is 4 hours behind the UK. So we landed there round about 6 p.m. Grenadian time. We got through the airport very quickly, all very efficient, quite simple. Got outside and straight away managed to get a taxi to our apartment where we were staying, which was only a 15-minute journey from the airport anyway. As I said earlier, I was not involved in any of the booking or organising of this holiday. I just knew where I had to be and what time I had to be there, and that I had to pack a suitcase and make sure my passport was fully up to date. So I didn't know exactly what to expect from the apartment, but we were met by the security guard who checked us in because they look after things when the office is not open. It was absolutely perfect for what we needed. It was just a 10-minute walk from there to the beach. There was a shop just around the corner and a bar and restaurant even closer than that. The first thing we did is quickly went to the supermarket before it shut to get ourselves something for breakfast the following morning and a few bits and pieces that we might need for the week. Then we came back and we thought we'd get ourselves straight away in the holiday mood by having a couple of glasses of rum and ginger ale. Rum is very much the drink of the island, so we thought we'd try and get ourselves in the mood from the off. We woke up the next morning and got some breakfast in the apartment. Linda's friend came over for a bit of a chat in the morning. The day was all planned out in advance. The reason being, it was actually Linda's birthday. So our first full day on holiday in Grenada was her birthday. So I gave her her card and present first thing in the morning. And I, with the help of her friend and some of her relatives who lived on the island, had booked somewhere for lunch where we could have a birthday meal. It was fantastic, the venue that they sorted us out with. It was right on the beach overlooking the white sand and the gorgeous sea as well. We had a great table, the sun was out, it was a gorgeous afternoon. They managed to feed me in there no problem. The food was really good, and it was just a very chilled afternoon celebrating Linda's birthday while having some cocktails and enjoying some food. From there we were joined by some friends and relatives of Linda's friend, and then we went to another bar just along the beach and had some more cocktails there. I was already starting to slowly work my way through all the cocktails that were on offer in Grenada. The great thing about this holiday was we had lots of local knowledge, and because we were not in an all-inclusive, we were just looking after ourselves in our own apartment, we had lots of freedom to eat and go where we want. So the people we were with suggested we go to this bar just out of town on another beach called Rockies. So we got a taxi out there. We got there just in time to witness the sunset over the beach from there, which was amazing. And the bar itself, it was packed. It had a DJ with some great music. There was some dancing. There were some more cocktails. There was some more rum and ginger ale. We had a fantastic time. It was a great first full day and night to our stay. While we were at this bar, we randomly got talking to somebody who had just finished work at an events company. They were working on the cricket at the National Stadium, and they told us there was going to be another match on the Tuesday and entry was free. So we thanked them for that information and said we'd think about it. The next day we had our first full beach day and our proper first enjoyment of the beach. We were staying in the capital of the country, and the beach there was absolutely stunning. Possibly the best beach I've been to in the Caribbean, I think. Classic white sands, nice and soft, turquoise sea. It just looked so clear. I did on day one spend most of the day just sunbathing, enjoying cocktails and reading the latest Peter Kay book, but towards the afternoon, the sea looked so tempting, I did have to go in and have a bit of a swim. It was so easy to walk into sand all the way. It dipped down quite quickly, but only went up to about the middle of your chest, and it was nice and warm as well. So I spent quite a bit of time just relaxing in there. You do have to pay for sunbeds on the beach for the day as we did. But depending where you go along the beach, along with the sunbeds, you could get free Wi-Fi and the use of nearby bars. And also they do come and deliver drinks to you on the beach as well. After a discussion that evening, we decided to go to the cricket the following day. I, believe it or not, had never seen a professional cricket match, something I've been meaning to do for years, but for whatever reason never quite got round to it. The cricket match on at the National Cricket Stadium of Grenada the day we were going was a women's T20 match between the West Indies and Sri Lanka. Not really knowing what to expect, we got a taxi out there, and in Grenada they have a similar service to Uber. It's called Hail a Cab. It's an app, and you can book a taxi via the app to go wherever you want. And every time we used the service, the taxis always turned up really quickly. They were nice cars, very polite drivers. It was a great service. Anyway, we got one of these to the National Stadium for the cricket. We arrived quite early, got there, had to ask the policeman on the gate where we go and just check it was actually free and we were in the right place. He confirmed these details for us and we could just walk ourselves into the stadium and sit down wherever we liked. It was obviously another glorious day. The weather over there was great. Highs of about 28, 29, and it never really got lower in the evenings than 24 Celsius. So I spent the entire holiday, day and night, in shorts and flip-flops. It was brilliant. You could, of course, get some liquid refreshments at the cricket, so we sampled some of them. Unfortunately, they only really had beer or the very, very strong rum that is produced on the island. I kind of thought I might want to enjoy the cricket, it being my first ever professional match. So instead of having anything alcoholic, because I couldn't have the beer, I had a Fanta. Now, when I went to the bar, he offered me a Fanta, and in my head, I was like, that would be an orange Fanta. I remember having those on many European holidays. They always just felt right in the sunshine. So I said I'd have the Fanta. It turns out it was a red Fanta, I'm guessing from America. Now, I like the sweet stuff, but this drink was so sweet, I really struggled to finish it. However, I have this thing, any food I have or any drink I have, it has to be finished. I can't leave anything. So I did finish the bottle, but I did make sure that next up I got a ginger ale instead, which was much better. The game itself was very entertaining, enjoyed it. It lasted about 3.5 hours in the end, with Sri Lanka running out the winners. But it was exciting, it was fun, I enjoyed it. After the cricket had finished, we just got ourselves a taxi back and then went out to a restaurant for some food. The restaurant we went to could look after my gluten-free needs, albeit with only one dish, but the dish they had was very nice and very filling. So that was another successful restaurant trip, and we ticked off a few more different cocktails as well. For most of the rest of the holiday, we did spend time on the beach. Then on the Thursday, Linda's friend had very kindly organised us a tour of Grenada that she'd booked with someone she knew who was a family friend of her stepmum's. So she picked us up about 9 a.m. in the morning. As we were waiting for the taxi to arrive outside our apartment, one feature of the Grenadian weather is it did rain quite a bit while we were over there, but they were only really short showers, normally lasting no more than 5 or 10 minutes. They could be quite a strong downpour, but there was normally somewhere not too far away where you could shelter. As we were waiting for the taxi this morning, we could see the rain in the distance, and we were kind of on a lower bit of a hill. So as I looked round, and this was quite a weird experience for me, I could actually see the rain in a straight line coming towards us down the hill until it hit us. We managed to run for cover just about in time because we could see it coming, and by the time the taxi arrived to pick us up, it had already stopped. We had a full day's itinerary ahead of us. The island itself is very hilly, very mountainous. The roads are very narrow, so it's not a place I would necessarily want to drive around myself, and I was glad of our taxi driver. Initially, they just took us on a bit of a tour around the ports and pointed out some of the major things we could see from the road. Then we headed to a national park, which was just past the highest point of the entire country, where we did stop for a photo opportunity looking over the whole of the island, which was quite a spectacular sight. From there, we went to have a quick walk round a national park where you could feed the monkeys. The monkeys were wild, but there was a monkey wrangler there who had loads of bananas, who basically, for a tip, would give you a chance to have the monkey sat on your arms and you could feed it as well while it was there. So we all had that done. Then we went for a walk along the trail, which only took about 15 minutes, and seemingly like every place on the island, there was somewhere to get some food and drink, so we thought we'd better start the day with a rum punch, which is a very popular drink that you could get pretty much anywhere, at any time it would seem too. Our next stop was to find a street food vendor who did something called doubles. They are actually a dish from Trinidad, which is one of the reasons why Linda particularly enjoys them or wanted to have one. Her dad was from there and she has visited Trinidad a few times over the years and does love the food. Unfortunately, everybody else could have one except me because they're absolutely full of gluten. I could hear them all in the back really enjoying their food. They seemed to absolutely love them, which made me happy, and at that point I was fine. I'd bought a protein bar, so I wasn't hungry. Next they took us to a graveyard in a very big Catholic church right on a hill, because it had a plaque for a momentous piece of history from the island's past. Several hundreds of years ago, the island was invaded by the French when the original tribes were still there, called the Caribs. They fought hard, the Caribs, with the French. It was a battle that raged for many, many years. When the French actually won and took control of Grenada, the Caribs were so disappointed and so anti the French rule that around 5,000 of them, rather than stay and be ruled by the French, they threw themselves off the top of a hill into the sea and onto the rocks below. So there's a monument to those people who lost their lives in that event, which is very poignant if you think about the predicament they must have been in and how they were feeling to do that rather than just live under the rule of the French. It was a very busy day and we seemed to be driving pretty much all over the country. Next we went to the Belmont chocolate plantation to see how they make chocolate. We did the chocolate tour there, which did include trying some cocoa beans right from the ground, fresh before they'd been aged or anything. That was an interesting experience. The tour was very good, explained exactly how the chocolate was made there. We got to try the beans at different stages to see how the look and the taste of the chocolate progresses as it goes through the process. Obviously, at the end of the tour, they take you into the shop. You can have some samples, and then if you wish to buy some chocolate. I found this really nice 70% cocoa, milk and spiced chocolate, which was fantastic. So I had to get myself a bar of that. Somehow I managed to make the small bar of that last 3 days. It wasn't easy, but I managed it. After winding up and down some more tiny roads, we suddenly found ourselves at what was called a sulphur spring spa. Now, we had been told by Linda's friend to bring our swimming costumes with us as we might need them. So when we got there and they offered us this spa treatment in the open air, basically, Linda and I were both a little apprehensive at first, but then we thought, when are we ever going to get to try something like this or experience this again? So we both went for it. The treatment involved this, getting changed into our swimming wear, into very ad hoc makeshift changing rooms, which you could just about keep your dignity within. There were two Grenadian women who were running the spa. First thing they do is cover you in this mud mixture, and I mean cover you from head to toe, face, head, everywhere, and even they, and I wasn't expecting this, nip down your trunks and spread it all over your bottom as well. No warning whatsoever, but I guess they're very thorough. Once you've been caked in mud, then you have to head back out into the sun and wait for about 30 minutes while the mud bakes dry all over you, which is such an odd and weird feeling. Obviously, we had photos taken of us in this state just so we could see how ridiculous we looked. It did seem to take ages for the stuff to dry. Once the mud had been caked on sufficiently and you were in some sort of mud cask, the first thing you had to do was to get into one of the natural sulphur springs, which weren't very deep. You could just about sit on the bottom, but you had to go into one of those and you had to try to wash as much of the mud off as you possibly could. The pool was quite warm and pleasant, and it didn't feel too sulphury, and the smell wasn't too bad, which was kind of my fear, but it was all fine. We all stayed in there for a bit and tried to wash ourselves off. Once you'd done that, you then headed across to another clear water natural spring that was basically a well, and the people doing the spa got the water from the well and basically just threw it over you, like some sort of water torture in a way, but more enjoyable than that, obviously. It was warm, so that was fine, although not quite as warm as the sulphur pool we'd just been in. Again, they were very thorough with the water, making sure it got everywhere and they rinsed everything off. At that point, I thought I was probably done, but I was wrong. Then they dry you off and cover you with some moisturiser of some sort. The whole thing takes about 45 minutes to an hour. It's an odd experience. My skin immediately after did feel really good, to be fair. It was very, very soft. I don't think, though, I looked particularly younger, and it didn't seem to last long, but it was a great, fun experience. Grenada is a massive producer of rum. I did drink quite a bit of rum while I was over there because it seemed the right thing to do, and also I generally really like cocktails that have rum in, and I discovered that rum and ginger ale is a very nice drink. Linda's friend actually has a couple of tattoos of her favourite rum producer in Grenada, so therefore we had to go there and do their tour and their tasting. So that's where we headed to next. The tour, which lasted about 45 minutes and included a tasting at the end, cost about £3.50 each, which is spectacular value. I think you'll agree. It was very interesting seeing how they made the rum. They make two types of rum there. One which you are able to take out of the country because it's about 60% proof, and one which is 78% proof, which is too strong to be allowed on a plane, so it can't be exported anywhere. That rum is purely for use within Grenada. We got to try both of them at the end of the tour. Now, we'd already had a bit of a heads up because, as you can imagine, any alcohol that strong, if you try and have it neat, it has got a bit of a heat to it. So Linda's friend, who we were with, who has done the tour several times, gave us the heads up to make sure once we'd put the shot of rum in our mouths that we take some water and mix it with the water before we swallow it down. Unfortunately, on the first of the 2 rums, I didn't quite get the mix right, so I did burn my throat a little bit. Happily though, the second one was the really, really strong one, and luckily I managed to get the water to rum ratio correct on that one. It tasted really good, but it definitely had a very warming kick to it, so we were all quite merry once we'd finished there. Next, Michael, who was our taxi driver and guide for the day, took us to his bar and gave us a drink each. He offered everyone beer, but obviously once again I couldn't have the beer, so he offered me some of the Rivers rum, which was the place we just visited, and he only had the local really strong version of it, so I poured myself some of that. I was a little bit heavy-handed, so I did give myself a spectacularly big shot of it, and I had to just keep topping up with the bottle of ginger ale. It was very nice, to be fair. I must say I thought the Rivers rum tasted better with the ginger ale than it did neat by itself. Earlier in the day, Michael had told me that his son was actually one of the Grenada international strikers. He also played for one of the top teams in the country. As it happened, he was in the bar playing FIFA with his mate, so I managed to have a very quick chat to him, which was cool. Always like meeting international footballers. Our last stop of the day was to Linda's friend's stepmom's house, which is right up in the hills in a small village. On the way to our last village of the day, we drove along the old airport that had been closed for round about 45 years now. There are just 2 planes remaining there. They're military planes. One is Russian and one is American, and they were left there from, I think it was a War of Independence that was fought in Grenada in the 1980s. There is a brand new airport now, but this one is sometimes used as a racetrack for race events. The final place we went to was to visit Linda's friend's stepmom's house, which is in a small village. It's obviously where her dad used to live as well, and where she's been going for 30 odd years herself. It was quite interesting to see actually inside a traditional Grenadian home. It was very big, it was kept very cool, and as part of it they had 2 acres of land where everything you could imagine was growing, spice-wise, fruit-wise and plant-wise. Nutmeg, cinnamon, mangoes, plantain, which I love, all growing in their garden. So they could pretty much live off the land. So we stayed there for a bit and had a good look round, which was great. Eventually, we ended up back at our apartment. Then Linda and I headed out, of course, for dinner and cocktails. I had a fantastic time in Grenada. I was very lucky in that it's the first holiday for a while that I haven't been glutened. All the restaurants were really good with my requirements. I had to explain that I was gluten-free, and basically at each restaurant I kind of asked them what was safe to eat. What could they give me that did not have gluten in that would be fine? It did mean in quite a lot of the restaurants I ended up having the cash of the day, some rice and some vegetables, which meant I got to eat lots of different fresh fish, which was great, and I'd much rather that be the case. I would be happy to eat the same meal every day rather than risk something that might have gluten in, which would make me unwell really badly for 2 or 3 days and have knock-on effects for the next couple of weeks. So they looked after me so well. The beaches there are absolutely stunning. The bars and restaurants were great. There was lots of live music and DJs. The people were lovely. Everything you needed was nearby. I would definitely go back there, and I know Linda is very keen to go back as well. So there's a chance we could well visit Grenada again in the future. And although we often do all-inclusive holidays in the Caribbean, it was really good having the apartment and being on our own time and own schedule. It gave us a chance to do a lot more different things. The flight back went quite quickly. I even managed to grab 2 or 3 hours sleep, which is almost unheard of on planes for me. It was a fantastic holiday. I came home tanned, relaxed, and with lots of great memories of the place. Every year I do at least one day at the Cheltenham Festival. It started nearly 10 years ago when a mate of mine called Dan invited me and a couple of us along. So there was about 3 or 4 of us at first. Had a great time. Cheltenham is amazing. The racing is at such a high standard. They have big fields. The course is great. You have a fantastic view of the whole course, and the stand where we go is right on the finish line. It is just a great day out for someone who really likes their horse racing, as I do. Dan is so enthusiastic about it. Every year he's just talked to more and more people about it, and this year he took 28 people with him. We hired a minibus to get us there from Reading, which we've done for the last couple of years. That is, I must say, much better. I've done it on the train previously, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. They do organise shuttle buses to and from the train station, but as you can imagine, with that many people going to the racing, there are queues to get on the bus when you arrive, and the queues to get on the shuttle buses when you want to get back to the station can take ages to go down, and then you also have to queue again to wait for your train when you get to the train station. So going by minibus is a lot more fun. We could all sit together, have a bit of a chat and a laugh on the bus. Worked perfectly. I had a bit of a result in the first race. I had the winner of the first race, which won at odds of 40-1, so that started me off quite nicely. And then later on in the meeting I had an each way bet, again a 40-1 shot that came in. It is always nice to win a bit of money when you go racing. Very much doesn't happen every time, but it is nice when it happens. It was a very enjoyable day out. Linda came for the very first time to see what the day is all about. I spend the entire time just walking between the bar, the bookies and the stands to watch the racing. There's 40 minutes between each race, but the time flies by and the day just goes so quickly. On the way home in the minibus, we had a good old-fashioned sing-song. Great fun. Another top day out. We're already looking forward to going to Cheltenham next year. And I've got the Aintree Festival and Ladies' Day to look forward to next month to get my racing fix. It's been a very difficult season so far for my team, Tottenham Hotspur. Results have not really gone our way, it's fair to say. We've really struggled. We've got so many injuries. Things have just not been going well all season. We haven't really played well. It's been very disjointed. I won't go into all the reasons why I think this is the case here, but at least we did get our first points for a very long time last weekend away at Liverpool. The annoying thing is, even when we were doing really well and pushing for Champions League places, and even several years ago potentially challenging for the league, we never got anything at Anfield then. So it's even weirder that we got something this year when we're struggling just above the relegation places. That is it for this time. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other. Have fun, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye bye.